Hello, this is wmpyr here to talk about trapping. Okay, so the reason why I'm making this video is because recently I saw a really good interview video with Sensei Paul Vunak. I don't think he goes by Sensei, maybe Sifu, or let me just call him instructor, world famous instructor, Jeet Kune Do instructor Paul Vunak. Okay, so yeah. One of the questions that was asked to him was about trapping. And a lot of people say that trapping doesn't work. And when that was brought up to him, he was pretty much kind of like, what else is new kind of thing. They've been saying that since forever. So he's probably like tired of hearing that. And his take on trapping is what he calls trapping range, which is he has four ranges of combat, which is different from my four ranges of combat. But his is kicking, punching, trapping, and then ground. So trapping range, he says, is the same as clinch range. So the first answer he gave was he said that anyone that says trapping range doesn't work, watch a MMA fight, and when they're using elbows and knees, that's trapping range. So obviously it does work because you see it in MMA. That's what he's saying, the elbows and knees. But he goes, but I know what people are talking about. And so he went into detail about that. And that's very, very interesting. His viewpoint, his answer, and what people are talking about. And trapping itself, because for many years, I did not understand trapping. And the thing is, in Filipino martial arts, you learn something pretty much that is trapping. It's very, very similar. And whether it's called hubad or 1-for-1 or it's a partner drill. And it's different from the sticky hands chisao, but there's a lot of similarities there. And it's basically, you see people do it, and in Filipino martial arts, we could use single stick, we could use double stick, we could use a single knife, we could do barehanded, and this is a lot of times the portion where you see an instructor and his student demonstrating it, and it just looks super complex. It looks cool, but it looks super complex, and people get mega turned off by it because it just looks way too damn complicated. And those that get into it, they kind of get almost like addicted to the power of it, and just because it's like, look what I can do, and they think that it's going to solve all their problems, which I don't think so. But you see some people who do Filipino martial arts get super, super into it, and that's pretty much like all they want to do. And very similar, like I said, to the Wing Chun, Chisao, sticky hands kind of training. In Jeet Kune Do, you have the trapping. Not so much the single traps where it's a slap strike kind of stuff, where they call it paksao. We're talking about like compound trapping. Compound is like pretty much where the opponent's arms end up crossed and slammed down like this, and they look helpless, while the attacker is now kind of like free to do whatever they want. So that's the kind of stuff, that's the trapping. And people have debated about it, that why don't you see it in boxing? Why don't you see it in MMA? It doesn't work. It's just something that you do in class, and it's just drills, and in real life, the opportunity to use something like that is too small, and this and that, and all kinds of things have been said about it. It is definitely, it was a big mystery for me to tackle, and I wanted to be able to do it in full contact, and I realized that I couldn't. And it was super attractive. The techniques look very cool, and I wanted to be able to pull it off. It just wasn't happening. So I didn't give up at that point, and I didn't go, you see, it's bullcrap, it's a lie. I didn't go there either. I kept practicing. Like I said, in Filipino martial arts, we have similar stuff, so I kept training that, even though I knew that it's not something that if I was in a street altercation, it's not something I'm whipping out because I couldn't do it in full contact. So if you can't do it in full contact, why would I do it in a street self-defense situation or even try to do it? So anyway, so as far as trapping goes, one of the things that Sensei Paul Vanek was saying about it was, he said that in order to understand how trapping really works in real life, is that he says it comes from the straight blast. And he says MMA people don't do the straight blast enough. And he likes to bring up the example of Vitor Belfort versus Vanderlei Silva, which occurred in the UFC. They fought once. That first time they met, Vitor mows him down with punches, and Sensei Paul Vanek calls that the straight blast. I think Vitor calls it or his crew calls it the Vitor Blitz. But yeah, I mean, it's just a series of explosive, rapid punches, just going straight down, pretty much, right at the guy's face. So it's going center line, and you just mow down the guy with these rapid fire punches. And Vitor was known to have these very fast, explosive hands. So yeah, if you haven't seen that fight, you should definitely see it. And so what Paul Vanek is saying is that when you do the straight blast and you see how effective that is, so you do it, but then the opponent also does it. So he says that's when trapping occurs. When two guys are doing the straight blast, they're going to clash in the middle, and it's going to he makes it sound like it's going to cancel each other out, and that's where your arms are going to be right there, and that's where trapping occurs. So in order for trapping to occur, two people need to do the straight blast. Why does the straight blast need to occur? I mean, he's saying because the straight blast it's that powerful, it's that effective, that if you're doing the straight blast, that you're pretty much going to dominate. Therefore, the straight blast is, in his the RAT system, Rapid Assault Tactics, I believe, it's a big deal. And he does the straight blast in that. It's one of the main components in the RAT system. And, once you do the RAT and then you get in close, then that's where the elbows, headbutts, and knees occur, and you're in trapping range kind of thing. But yeah, so he was saying that for the trapping hands to occur, you need two people doing the straight blast, and they kind of cancel each other, and that's where it happens. Okay, so that's his opinion, and he's saying in order to see something like that in the UFC, that it's gonna be a while, and he's also basing this off of the sparring that occurred back when he was training at the I think it was the Professor Danny Dos Santos Jeet Kune Do Academy, when he was over there in training, and he was using the straight blast very, very effectively, and then other people started using the straight blast, and then he noticed that it would kind of cancel each other out, and he's like, what's going on? Now they're doing the straight blast too, what do I do? And that's where the Professor Danny Dos Santos told him, dude, that's where trapping occurs, do it, what are you doing? That's where you trap. So he's like, oh, so it's pretty much off of that is what he's going by. I'm not here to go against that or say it's wrong. I mean, who am I, And that's his experience. That's his life experience. He actually put his body on the line and tested it out, and those were his findings. And I'm not here to argue against that or anything. From my own personal experience, let me just put aside his. I thought it was very interesting, and like I said, I'm not here to combat that. The way that I see it is I have a different method. I have a different definition of trapping. But his is different, mine is different. It doesn't mean that one is right, one is wrong. The way that I view it is you take what makes sense to you. And if his explanation, if it makes sense to you, bits and pieces of that or the whole thing or whatever, you take it and you use it. And if you could apply it, then it's great. If you can't apply it, well, keep working on it, or maybe something else might be better for you. That's all it is. It's a tool. So just because he says it doesn't mean it's guaranteed, you know. And same with me. Just because I say it doesn't mean it's guaranteed. You could watch Rickson Gracie fight and you study it, doesn't mean you're going to fight like Rickson Gracie either. So you got to make it your own, is what I'm saying. So for me, what I found out over the years is one of the key words that he actually says, Paul Vanak actually says, is that trapping is the same as the clinch. So for me, the clinch is close range. So if trapping and the clinch is one and the same, that means where the Muay Thai head clinch occurs, in boxing where the tie-up occurs, in judo where you're trying to throw each other, in Greco-Roman wrestling, the overhooks, underhooks, that's the clinch. You see it in MMA all the time. That's the clinch. So Paul Vanak is saying that's trapping range. So that's when I was like, wait a minute. If that's trapping range, then it's grappling. It's not striking. And everybody trains trapping off of striking. And that's when I was like, what if you train trapping off of grappling? Not off of striking, but off of grappling. Then all of a sudden things made sense to me. All of a sudden now I use the same concepts, principles, dominate the center line, one arm, use my one arm to trap up both of their arms if possible, those kinds of things. And I was noticing, wait a minute, you could do that in a grappling clinch. So all the techniques that I learned from like Wing Chun or the Filipino martial arts where it's similar to trapping, or the Jeet Kune Do type of trapping, which is based off of the Wing Chun trapping, but those kinds of trapping stuff, all of a sudden now is getting a big makeover. Makeover is probably not the right word. It was an evolution for me. It was a big, huge thing. And then I started seeing in MMA those kinds of traps. The first clue was watching Rickson Gracie get the mount position, and he would put the guy's arm like this, like the guy's trying to protect, and he would put his chest pressed down on the arm, so now the arm's pinned like this. And so he has both arms free to punch. And the guy's one arm is kind of pinned by the chest. Even though it's temporarily, he gets that. So, and then he could pass it and catch it. So then the guy is, we call it a gift wrap. The guy's wrapped up like this. And now so Rickson has that arm trapped. He does this move a lot. He seems to really like it. So he's grabbing the other guy's arm, pulling it like this. So this is what's happening to the guy. And now Rickson's on top ready to punch. Okay. So I was like, that's trapping. It's just he's doing it on the ground, but that's exactly trapping. So then I was like, why can't I apply that to stand-up grappling? Basically the clinch. So in the clinch, I'm pressing my chest up against their arm the same way. It's not just my arms trying to trap up their arms, but also my chest, my body, pinning their arm. And then I noticed one of the most famous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu techniques to pass the guard is Mario Sperry came up, or the first time I saw this was from Mario Sperry, where he would put the other guy's arm behind the back and then grab it with his other arm. So then the guy can't get his arm out. So this side's defenseless. So he's doing this on the ground and also passing, and he's punching, and he's passing the guard. So I was like, you could do that in the stand-up clinch. So I started doing this kind of stuff. And when I saw the ground stuff, I was like, yeah, they're doing it on the ground. Of course they're doing it on the ground. And it just made total sense to me. So for me, that's how I do the trapping. The trapping now is completely different from the traditional way, but it's linked. It's totally linked. It's just completely different. And then I was thinking, like, what's up with this? I mean, why does this happen? Why is this such a Why is it so different? You know, I feel like I invented something, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. So what's going on here? And then I started thinking, well, in training, it's different when you're trying to learn the stuff. It's different from application. Okay, I get that. So, but why, what were the people from the past, the founders, the people that created these styles, what in the world were they thinking? Because it's so different. You know, I think I'm on the right path to solving this trapping dilemma, but why did it end up being so different? And that's where I started thinking, what was their original purpose? And the answer lies in weapons, in my opinion, and that's where it comes from. Filipino martial arts is we still practice with weapons. A lot of styles, like for example Wing Chun, yes, they practice for weapons, but the weapons have almost become like secondary or minor in my opinion. They spend a lot more time, I think, empty hand. And the weapon stuff is almost like a bonus. Here you do the weapons and it could further your skills. It could advance your skills, but not as your core basic mechanics. Like in Eskrima, from day one, we start with the sticks. But then I was thinking, okay, so back then on the battlefield, they fought with these weapons, all right? You fight with weapons. And I've said to you guys, if I'm doing the blender, so like a arm waving heaven six type motion, with a freaking machete type of sword, one-handed sword. The other guy's doing the same thing. So this is not a straight blast situation, but kind of similar, right? What Paul Vanek was talking about, where two people doing the straight blast. Well, I found that if I have a bolo, they have a bolo, which is the machete, you know, the Filipino one-handed sword, and we go at it against each other using a blender, we both gonna die. It's not, okay, now we do trapping. No, we're both gonna die, or we're gonna be extremely injured. So, in my opinion, at this point, what I think they did, which is a no-brainer, and I would too, is that you have to jam their weapon. And I believe the Filipinos did it. The Europeans did it. I believe the Japanese did it. I believe if you're human, that's what you do. On the ancient battlefield, the other guy has a weapon, you have a weapon, and you're gonna clash, you jam their weapon. Unless you have the time on a battlefield, I don't see how you would have the time to move around, keep the distance, look for openings, set them up, fake and fight in long range. I don't think so, because it's just so much happening. So you go in and you jam their weapon. You hit their weapon as hard as you can with your weapon, jam it, and then fight in the clinch, the close range. So because it's just too dangerous, you're going to get killed. If you let them swing and you're swinging, you're both going to hurt each other really bad, and then the guy next to you will finish you off. So I believe that makes total sense. So that is trapping. That's the start of trap. In trapping, you put your arm out, the opponent puts the arm out, and you start like that. If you watch Enter the Dragon, the way Bruce Lee starts with O'Hara, which is a Bob Wall, in that real famous fight in Enter the Dragon, they start with the arms crossed. That to me is symbolizing, that's the jamming right there. It's just that in real life, you would jam that really hard, bam, and you would bash your arm against theirs to make sure they can't use that arm, and now you're in the clinch. That's a safe way to make sure that arm is not hitting you. So, to me, that is the start of trapping. And then from there, what do? Like I said, you do the trapping techniques that you learn in Wing Chun and whatnot, but not off of a punch, but in grappling energy. So that's the trapping that I developed. That's the trapping that I use. That's the trapping that just makes sense. I don't really see people doing it and people talking about this, but this is my take on trapping. And even though I came up with it on my own, I really don't feel like I invented anything. Like I said, I just looked back and thought about the roots of all this, and I believe this is it. So that's all I gotta say. So if you do it this way from the clinch, of course, with grappling energy, not striking energy, not off of a punch, not off of any kind of strike, but off of, you know, where you got overhooks and underhooks. From there, you start doing this. Okay, then I guarantee you, you know, you'll have a chance to be able to do it, to pull it off, to pull off trapping against, you know, just about anyone that's at your level. So, and I don't care if it's MMA, you know, I definitely think you have a chance to be able to pull this off. So, yeah, to me, this was huge, because up until this, up until I figured this out, I wasn't doing any kind of compound trapping in the stand-up. Or, you know, I mean, it just wasn't happening. It just, to try to have a punch come in and boom, 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 and then, you know, have their arms like this. I can't do it. That's all I gotta say. So anyway, yeah, I just want to get this video out there. You know, no disrespect to, you know, Sensei Sifu, Paul Vunak, and Professor Danny Nosanto. Their findings are their own, and they shared it with the world. And you know, on my path, I took stuff that helped me, like when, you know, one of the big things. Well, I mean, even the 4 ranges of combat. Like I said, mine's totally different, but I do remember hearing about Paul Vunak's 4 ranges of combat, and then that made me look back into the Filipino martial arts 4 ranges of combat, which they don't come out and tell you. So I had to, you know, look at the different systems where you have Largo Mano and Serrada and all this kind of different things, and piecing together the puzzles and going, oh, there are 4 ranges of combat in Filipino martial arts, and they totally have it in the styles. They just don't come out and tell you. So, you know, those were clues that helped me out. So, you know, and please, with my system too, do the same. You know, take stuff that makes sense for you, that clicks for you, and use it, please. And at the end of the day, it's all about, can you make it work for you in your situation? Can you use it in your situation? Can you pull it off? You know, and if you can't pull it off, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It means that in that situation, in that particular time, against that particular opponent, you weren't able to. That's all that means. So then you'll make modifications. Maybe you'll pick another system or a different tactic, or change your viewpoint, or, you know, you never know. And then 5 years from then, you might change your mind again. So, I mean, we are dynamic, evolving creatures. But, you know, just, I'm here to help, and these other instructors are here to help. It's not whose opinion is right, who's wrong. That's not the way that I view it. It's just, get whatever works for you and go with that, and let it help you. That's all it's about, is helping. So, not about arguing. So anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.